Good morning. Good morning. It is November the 6th. And I have no idea what we can talk about today. Just no idea. Like, I have no idea. It's November the 6th, 2018. No clue. I mean, I don't even know. I don't know how we're going to do a show today, really. I mean, I don't know, like, what's going on. The planet is fine. Everything's okay. Everything's totally fine. Everybody's happy. Everybody's employed. Everybody's satisfied. Politically, things are good. Got a few numbers to work out. Everything's good. We've achieved world peace. What could we possibly talk about today? Like, what's going on in the world? Did a new restaurant open somewhere? What can we possibly, I don't know what's going on today that we could possibly talk about. Oh man, and I just X'd out of the thing accidentally. Great. Good. There we go, I'm back. Good. Good morning, Karen. Good to see you. God bless America, says Boiled Rope Lampposts. You could talk about the current state of the Star Wars films. Good idea. We got to talk about something. I know what's possibly going on today. All right. Yeah, it's an important day today, huh? Lot to talk about today. Lot to talk about. And we could talk about Russia. Well, of course, we could always talk about Russia. Do you have a prediction as to where this election will end up? We're going to talk about it, Angie. I think we're going to see mixed results like anything else. We'll talk about it more in depthly. I know that's a very, very vague answer. Oh, man. Once we get up to 30, the show will officially begin. I hope, I encourage everybody to vote. I know that, some of you are, some of you aren't. I'm not here to shame anybody, but I do encourage you to go vote. Jordan, all I know is the Greens will be blamed. Yep, in certain cases, absolutely. What's up, Mike? Good to see you. Hope everyone is having a lovely morning and or afternoon. Angie, I think we are going to be disappointed. I hope I'm wrong. Well, I guess it depends on what you're hoping for. I think people that are really hoping for a really big blue wave, I think they're going to be disappointed. I don't think it's going to be as big as some people are projecting. Is there going to be some wins because of Trump fatigue? Yeah, I think there will be some, certainly. I don't think it will be as big as some are projecting. Joseph, what's up, buddy? I'm voting for the Get Your News On With Ron party today. Thank you. Write that in. VSA Dams, hello from Olympia, Washington. Hello, Olympia, Washington, and I can't wait to see you later this year. Graham Elwood and I are coming. We haven't booked the Northwest yet, but we will be coming up there. We want to do Seattle, we want to do Portland, and we want to do Ole, and we want to do Eugene. And we might even do Vancouver, British Columbia. But we're going to have a nice run up in the Northwest, and Olympia is on the list, so I hope to see you there. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Daniel. We're almost at 30, and once we're at 30, we'll officially begin. You think the Dems can take the House with a slim majority? I think it's possible, yes. Whether they will or not, I don't know. You can blame me. I voted for third-party candidates, and it felt great. Good, Angie. Edwin, I voted an hour ago. My polling place was busier than usual. There is going to be a big turnout, which is, that kind of encourage you a little bit. The millennials might save the blues. They don't. That we gotta save the planet. That's what we gotta save. We can't just save a political party. We gotta save the friggin' planet. I mean, the things I'm most excited about are propositions. As far as my ballot here in California, there aren't many. There are some candidates I'm really excited about, but I can't vote for them. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. I am Ron Placone, your host. We have officially started because we're over 30, and like I've been saying on the chat to you guys, I have no idea what the hell we can talk about today. What's going on with November 6, 2018? I can't think of anything going on today. I don't know. No, I'm going to go out and vote right after this. I'm going to vote. And so let's talk about the election. A couple of you guys sent some stuff pertaining to that. And Joseph asked if I already voted. I did not. I'm going to go vote right after this. Right after this, I'm heading out to vote. So if any of you guys got a few last-minute things to try to sell me on, try now. Try now. DC, what's up, buddy? Cannabis 2018. Yeah, that's got my vote. Michigan has 3 good props, as Jordan is pointing out. One of them will finally let me vote absentee. Jordan says it's sad how excited I am about that. Joseph, no, Adam Schiff is not my rep. Thank goodness. If Adam Schiff was my rep, I would be tempted to vote for whoever his opponent was. I mean, I wouldn't vote for a Republican over. I would just leave it blank. But I could not vote for Adam Schiff in any circumstance. There is no circumstance where I could vote for Adam Schiff. You know, and I acknowledge that there are times where there are cases that are so extraordinary in our politics that I would, have to really hold my nose. But Adam Schiff is one I could never justify casting a ballot for that guy. That guy is a grifter ass clown. I really dislike that guy so much. I would never vote for Adam Schiff under any circumstances. I would leave it blank. I would write something in. I would never vote for him. Tom's Lover, if the Dems win big, what do you think will be the number one priority they will push for first? Trump's taxes. They already said that was their number one priority. Trump's taxes. Trump's taxes and, PAYGO. They talked about PAYGO. So, Edwin, if you leave part of your ballot blank, do you think it will get tossed or not counted? I don't think so, no. I don't, if they're going to mess with ballots, it's not going to be based on whether or not you leave some things blank. Joseph says their number one priority, meaning Dems, is making sure Bernie doesn't become president. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Chris, who else plans on getting drunk watching the results tonight? I do not, because I have to do, I'm going to be doing crosstalk, so I can't get drunk until after that. But I might. Reefer Revolution, DC 420 gives a shout out to Kenneth Mejia. That's awesome that you can vote for Kenneth Mejia. I can't. I don't live in his district. If I lived in Kenneth Mejia's district, of course I would vote for him. I don't live in his district, so I can't vote for him. In fact, all the candidates I'm excited for in California, I can't vote for because I'm not in their district. I would love to vote for Maria Estrada. I cannot vote for her. I cannot vote for Kenneth Mejia. I don't live in his district. I cannot vote for James Aaliyah. I don't live in his district. I cannot vote for Rodolfo Cortez. I do not live in his district. So, yeah. Those are people I would be stoked to vote for, but I can't vote for them. So, if you're in California and you're in any of those districts, I encourage you to look into those candidates. And we got some propositions to be excited about. The things I'm most excited about, if I had to just sum up 2 things, 10B. 10 and B are the things I'm most excited about. And I can't vote on B because I technically don't live in the city proper to vote on B's. B. on bees. We're voting for bees. Just bees. Like, do we want to keep them or not? And everyone's like, we need honey. So bees should win by a landslide. No one's, I mean, yeah, getting stung sucks. But, dude, honey. They're important to an ecosystem. We're going to keep bees, guys. In California, we're voting for bees. We're going to keep them. So, yeah, I can't vote on B, which is for the public bank. I very much hope that it passes. I will be voting on Prop 10. Of course, I'm voting yes on that. That is to lift the regulations on what can and can't be rent controlled. So I'm excited for that one. And there's some other propositions that I think are pretty good and could kind of do some good things. Cool. Public bank. Some of you guys are saying for the public bank. And some of you guys aren't voting. That's your choice. I think you're making the wrong one, but that's your choice. And Chris says that's the bee's knees. Some of you guys are giving shout-outs for Tim Canova. I just gave him a shout-out on Twitter. Tim would be a huge win. I do think Tim would be a huge win. Chris says, I'm going to be very upset if PAYGO gets added to the Constitution in Indiana today. They're trying to cut state employee benefits, though. Chris Walker, go Sarah Smith in Washington. Marcia, looking forward to voting for Measure B. DC 420 points out Pasadena city tax on cannabis businesses on the ballot. Over 80 cities in California voting on commercial cannabis. Angie voted for 3 green candidates. Sean asks, Feinstein or De Leon? I'll post that question to the chat as well because I know some of you guys are Californians here. I'll answer it personally. I am leaving that blank. I can't justify voting for either one of them. I'm not voting for either one of them. I can't justify voting for Kevin De Leon because I think he would just be more of the same as far as Feinstein is. So I'm leaving it blank. I know some people, they're going De Leon. They see the importance of getting Feinstein out. I get it. I understand. I'm leaving that one blank. I can't justify voting for that guy. That guy is... I don't know anybody. And I'll throw this out to you guys because maybe some of you are in that camp. And if you are, that's okay. No one's trying to... But I don't know anybody. I have not encountered anybody. And I'm around the political environment a lot by nature as part of my livelihood. I don't know anybody that supports Kevin De Leon that isn't on his payroll. I don't know anyone. And by support, I mean is actually excited about him. I know a couple people that they're like, dude, we got to get Feinstein out so bad, so I'm going to vote for him. I know a couple people that said, look, I made a promise that I would vote against Feinstein no matter what, so I'm voting for him, but I'm not excited about it. I know a couple people in that camp. I don't know anybody that's excited about De Leon that isn't on his payroll. And no, I'm not voting for that guy. I'm not voting for Feinstein either. I'm leaving it blank. Because really, I think either way, you're going to get stuck with a wolf in sheep's clothing. And if some of you guys feel different, let me know. Let me know. You can convince me. Jordan voted for 4 Greens and 1 Dem. Ron, what are you voting for? What are you excited about? I feel like I've answered that a couple times, but I'm excited to vote for 10. I'm real excited to vote on Prop 10. I think that's huge. I think that's probably the biggest thing. I'm excited to vote. Well, I can't actually vote on B myself, but if I was in Los Angeles proper, I would be incredibly excited to vote for B. And there's a few other propositions that I think are pretty solid. I mean, I'm going to vote no on 6. There's a couple propositions that help fund hospitals. that help from the roads. There's a few local propositions. So, yeah, I mean, the big one for me is 10. That's the biggest one. And public banking. So I have nothing? No, I just named a bunch of things. How is that not? I just named multiple propositions I'm excited to vote for. How is that nothing? And even if you want to write off all the other ones I mentioned, I can vote on 10, and I'm excited to vote on 10. Even if I would be excited even if I only voted on 10 and left the rest blank. So no, I don't have nothing. Like, I just named multiple things. What about your view on daylight savings time? I don't care. I will probably leave that one blank. I don't care. I've had people explain that to me, and I still don't quite get it. I don't understand how changing the man-made construct of time is going to help climate change. That makes zero sense to me. I don't care. Peace and freedom is indifferent. Peace and freedom is indifferent to Prop 7. And yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't care. Prop 10 is what I'm important about, is what I'm stoked about. And let's see. We can look up some more. So yeah, I'm indifferent to that one. Why would you live in Tennessee? Because I lived in Nashville and I was on the road a bunch. It was a good place to be based out of. And Nashville's a wonderful town. I loved it there. It was a really cool town. I used the Peace and Freedom Voter Guide too. Yeah, they have a good guide. The DSA has a good guide. Most are pretty neck and neck. The difference is the voter Peace and Freedom is generally a little more against bonds, and I understand why. That's why, like, I can understand how some people would go against some of the propositions, even though they fund good things. The fact that they use bonds, it kind of screws the people over in the long run. So I understand. I understand why some people would vote against certain propositions, but I think that if it benefits a community a bunch, I still think it's a good thing to vote for. So I'm kind of, I mean, basically, I'm pretty much aligned with Peace and Freedom, but there's a few things where I think the ends justifies the means as far as using bonds to fund certain things. So I will be voting for them. Time, when you run to catch up with the sun, but it's sinking. I like that. Question from Chris. You believe huge early voting numbers favor the GOP or Dems? Traditionally, it favors the GOP. Yeah, I don't know this time. I would actually say it probably favors Democrats because typically in the midterms, people go against the White House. So we have a Republican in the White House, so I think the big voter turnout favors the opposition, which in this case would be Democrats, or in some very optimistic cases, progressives. But, so that's that. But we'll see. We'll see. Daylight savings time. All right, some of you guys are bringing up daylight savings. Canova and Mejia will tell me everything I need to know about 2020. Those are two big ones. And yeah, if you're in Florida and you're able to, please vote for Tim Canova. Please consider voting for Tim Canova. And yeah, people are turning out. I mean, this is, in many ways, this is the most important midterm of my lifetime. and many of our lifetimes. This is the most important election because we're at a very pivotal point in our society. So I have felt for a long time this is the most important midterm election in our lifetimes, in many of our lifetimes. Now, just showing up and voting is not enough. It's not. We don't. The type of change we really need in this country is not going to happen just from casting a ballot. Again, I encourage you to vote. I know some of you aren't. I'm not here to twist your arm into doing it. If you're not going to vote and you feel like you're proving something, good for you. I mean, good for you. I encourage you to vote. If you're asking my opinion, I think you should. But that's it. And again, if you're not excited about any candidates, I'm not really excited about any candidates that I'm able to vote for. The candidates I'm excited about, I can't vote for because they're not in my area. In my particular district in Pasadena, there is a progressive candidate going against Judy Chu, the Democrat. That candidate has had a non-existent campaign. His campaign has been in such disarray that the DSA could not bring themselves to endorse him. And I understand why they couldn't. I will be voting for him only because, I'm working on municipal internet. Judy Chu does take money from big telecoms, so I will be voting for the progressive. But as far as progressive candidates, he has been beyond a disappointment. He has not done any of the work, and you almost feel guilty for voting for the guy just because, if he hasn't done anything to earn anyone's vote, what makes you think he'll be a good representative? Which means I was tempted to just leave it blank, but I will be voting for him for the sole reason that, Judy Chu does take some big telecom money. He does not. So I'd rather have him in there than her. He has no chance in hell at winning. He ran a very sad campaign. And I really wish I could vote for somebody that's really been getting it done on the ground. Like a Kenneth Mejia or Rodolfo or James Aaliyah. Or Maria Estrada. Those are people that are working their asses off, and they've poured everything into what they're trying to do. Same with Tim Canova over in Florida. Same with Sarah Smith over in Washington. I wish I could vote for Sarah Smith. Man, I'd vote for Sarah Smith. Howie Hawkins in New York. Yeah, if I lived in New York, I'd be voting for Howie Hawkins. So yeah, there's a lot of candidates I'm excited about. I just don't live in the right place to vote for them. An OG voted for Howie Hawkins. Well done. And some of you guys voted for Sarah. Mark voted for Sarah. Statutory Grape voted for Howie. Rashida Tlaib, I've heard a lot about her. I need to look into her a little more myself, but I've been hearing about her. I'm not crazy familiar. Hello from Denmark. If Tim Canova wins, I'll get drunk with a friend with benefits in San Francisco tomorrow. Well, all power to you, Eugene. All power to you. I hope it works out. Jordan asks, what are Kenneth's odds? He's got a lot stacked against him. But he's got a shot. He made the runoff. He's got a shot. If he really rallies some unlikely voters to show up, he's got a shot. And I'm wishing him the best. Angie, Ron, what is your favorite place you've lived so far? Right here. Southern California. I lived in a lot of different places. I've enjoyed them all, but LA, as somebody who is in quote-unquote show business, as someone who's in show business, LA just offers one more than anywhere else in the world can offer them. The weather is spectacular. The traffic sucks. The cost of living sucks. That is all true. But there are opportunities available to you as a comedian that aren't available to you literally anywhere else in the world. And I like the punk rock that's available here. I like that part of the culture. In many ways, it felt like a homecoming when I finally got here to Southern California. I was like, man, you know, I came here and I was literally homeless because I had been living out of my car for a while. And I hadn't even found an apartment yet, so I was still technically homeless. I was just kind of crashing with friends and what have you. And I was in Venice, and I saw a skate park, and I just couldn't help think to myself, man, I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, where if you got on a skateboard, you got made fun of, and people teased you and chased you and threatened to beat you up. And here I was in Southern California, where there's skate parks everywhere, where there's Black Flag t-shirts everywhere, and there's hemp shops everywhere. And I kind of thought, man, I have no idea what's going to happen next in my life. But I feel like just the fact that I got here and this is home now, I'm going to be okay. And so far, things have been turning out pretty okay. I think Cali sounds like paradise. I don't know if anywhere's quite paradise, but SoCal has really got its charm, and it's got its flaws too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say anywhere's perfect. DC 420, our weed is the best. I don't know about. I mean, that's a tough. You're more of an expert than myself. But BC Bud is pretty freaking amazing. I don't like to talk in superlatives. I don't feel like, you know. I don't know if anywhere's the best. They all have their charm. European Hash has its charm. BC Bud has its charm. And, of course, the pot that is available here in Southern California. Pretty magical, too. Red Cover says, try and surf in Pennsylvania. I did, and I got kicked out of the wave pool. All right. And I believe Jordan brought this up. Voters turned away due to missing voting machines at precinct in Detroit. That's already happening. So this is breaking. At Martin Luther King Jr. High School in Detroit, voters arrived shortly after polls opened ready to vote. However, they were shocked to find out that the precinct wasn't prepared. They had no voting machines. Simply put, some voters were turned away, while others were unable to vote for an hour and a half. Chris Morris said he showed up to find election workers struggling to find a voting machine. Officials said there was a miscommunication about where the machine was located in the school. After learning it was in a locked closet, workers said they were left with no key to open the door. All right, so they finally had the voting machines up and running. That's good. And there happens to be a lot on the ballot in Michigan, too. There happens to be a lot on the ballot in Michigan. They're voting against gerrymandering. They're voting for a couple of... Some of you guys are in Michigan, so please help me out here. But there's a lot of propositions. I mean, Jeff over at TYT Nation, there's a lot of important propositions on the ballot in Michigan right now. So, man, what is... so weird that there's some irregularities going on already. Pot is on the ballot in Michigan. Yes, Jordan points out pot is on the ballot. And same-day voting, Jordan points out. So same-day voting, pot, and gerrymandering all on the ballot in Michigan. Those are all really important propositions. And there's some shenanigans already. Who would have thought? And honestly, here's an honest question. For those of you that think voting completely doesn't matter in every circumstance, why do they work so hard to suppress the vote if that's the case? If it never matters. Because I don't understand these people that they say, oh, look, they're tampering with the vote again, and by the way, voting never matters. Well, if it never matters, why are they messing with it? Why are they... You know, and I understand the sentiment, like if voting was as effective as we think it is, it would be illegal or whatever. I understand that sentiment. However, can't you also say, yeah, but if it was completely ineffective, they wouldn't tamper with the vote? If it was completely ineffective, why would they try to mess with the vote? Does anyone have an answer for me? Fracking ban? That's in Colorado. Fracking ban on Colorado. Or it's not actually a ban, but it's regulations. Right, Balthazar? It's not an actual ban, but what it does is it makes it a lot more difficult for certain wells, right? Like, isn't that essentially what it does? And it kind of sets the standard for a band. Band. I said band. Ban. B-A-N. I can't talk this morning. I got a lot on my mind. Right, okay. Derek points out it's a 2,500-foot setback, and a lot of them do not follow those standards, to my understanding. So it's not a ban, but it's a big limitation. So it's still important. I mean, Graham Elwood and I covered it a little more in depthly, and we had some Colorado folks in the chat, walking us through it. And I feel like it's still very important, but it's also important to realize it's not an actual ban, just so you realize the fight's not over, So, but it seems to still be a very good proposition that I would encourage people, if you're in Colorado, to vote for. So there's that. And Balthazar points out, it'll cancel development of 95% plus of new wells. And somebody sent this to me. Ivanka Trump gets 16 new China trademarks, including one for voting machine. Wow. Why does Ivanka Trump need trademarks for nursing homes, sausage casing, and voting machines in China? Or do we not want to know? The fashion brand of Donald Trump's daughter and presidential advisor Ivanka Trump has received first trial approval from the government of China for 16 new trademarks. The approvals were granted in October, only a few months after Ivanka said she was shutting down the Ivanka Trump brand, which was selling poorly in department stores here in the United States. Wow, this is the largest number of new Chinese trademarks she has received in a single month since her father, President Donald Trump, took office. You said you wanted him to run the country like a businessman, and here he is. But who's the businessman that's winning? Him. This is where our country's at. We are the United Corporation of America. That's where we're at. This is what you get. This is what you get when you let corporations take over your political process. This is what you get. And sorry guys, I'm scrolling on the timeline here to see what's next. This is from David. Let me give it a Get Your News On With Ron retweet. Twitter, Visa, and Lyft spend against San Francisco homelessness measure. Wow. Voters in San Francisco will decide Tuesday whether to nearly double the city's spending on services for the homeless, but some of the city's richest companies are spending to oppose it. So this basically is the same thing they had, or it looks like it's a similar thing to what they had in Seattle, where Amazon spent a bunch of money to defeat it, and Amazon ended up getting their way. Proposition C proposes that companies making more than $50 million in annual revenue would be taxed 0.5% more on average, raising about $300 million a year for affordable housing units and stuff to help the homeless and mental health services too. Rideshare company Lyft spent $100,000 and Square donated $50,000 against the measure. Visa spent $225,000 in opposition, while Stripe contributed roughly $420,000. I love how they would rather spend this money than pay such a small tax to do something that actually helps people. I mean, how greedy can you get? We crunched the numbers, and it turns out it cost us less money to spend money opposing this than it would that if it passes the less than 1% tax we would have to pay. And I'm assuming that's what they did. I'm assuming they crunched the numbers. We're going to spend money to oppose this so that hopefully it doesn't pass. And if it doesn't pass, the money we spend opposing it is marginally less. Because they spent some okay coin opposing this thing, as opposed to spending less than 1%, paying more than 1%. I mean, how greedy can you get? And that's the problem when you have a corporate structure, because it is supposed to be amoral. It's not supposed to factor any type of morality at any point, whether it comes to how employees are treated. It's all about the bottom line no matter what, and you have to be a disconnected robot from it. So you don't see any problem with saying, why are we spending this money defeating something that's going to help homeless people in our community and make our community a better place? Don't we benefit if we're a place of business to be in a community that's a decent place? Doesn't that give a better quality of life to our employees and to anyone else that lives here that's part of this company? Doesn't that in turn make this place a more desirable place to work? Shouldn't we want a strong community that helps those who are most marginalized? Isn't it worth that community investment to spend less than 1% each year? Not if the bottom line says it's a little cheaper to try to oppose this thing. And that's why it's in many ways just a sick structure. Corporate America, there's no such thing as corporate compassion. That's not a thing. When you hear people throwing those oxymorons, compassionate, conservative, corporate civility, corporate responsibility, that's all bullshit. None of that exists. None of that exists. They are amoral operations. They don't care about you. If you work for them, they don't give a shit about you. And I'm not trying to shame anybody for working where they work. I know this is the reality of the world we live in. People need to pay their bills. But I will tell you, they don't give a shit about you. And if you think, well, Ron, you'd be surprised I work for it. No, they don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about you. If you work for a workers' co-op, they give a shit about you. If you work for a big corporation, they don't give a shit about you. Are some better than others? Yeah. But they still, Howard Schultz wouldn't be giving the benefits if he didn't see the benefit to his bottom line. And he might run for president, and he doesn't even support single payer. He thinks that his company can do better things with healthcare than our frickin' country can. And that's the type of attitude we need to get away from in this country. Big time. They'd rather spend money. I mean, what? And these are some big companies that are pretty hard to avoid if you live in the world. Visa, Square, Lyft. Some harder than others, but you get the idea. And who else was in there? Twitter. Less than 1%. They'd rather spend 6 figures in money in most cases opposing something that would help homeless people in their community than give up less than 1% a year to make their community a better place. And we're supposed to put this business model on a pedestal. We're supposed to celebrate it. We're supposed to want to be like it. And we're supposed to give them a pass because that's just how business is done. Well, you know what? Maybe we need to rethink how business is done. An amoral corporate predator is not the only option to do business in the world. It's just not. Neoliberalism wants to convince you that that's the case. They want to convince you that, well, if we didn't have this, we wouldn't be competitive. That's bullshit. That's not true. We wouldn't have a predatory system where a CEO makes 475 times that the average worker. That's what we wouldn't have. If there were protections that made our predatory corporate structure not the way of doing business in the United States. That's what we wouldn't have. We wouldn't have a rift between the haves and the have-nots that is remnant of ancient Egypt. That's what we wouldn't have. So thanks for sharing that, and that's a shame, and I really hope if you're in the San Francisco area, you go and you vote for C. And you support C so that these companies can ante up and do something about homelessness. Because, by the way, it's the homelessness that they helped cause. Let's not forget, it's the homelessness they helped cause. All right, thank you for sharing that, David. And this is from V. Stewart. It's an article over at The Intercept. Life after Trump, how Donald Trump saved the Democratic Party from itself. Okay. On the morning of November 9, 2016, millions of Americans woke up in a fog. All right. All right, I don't really care about your time with your daughter. No offense. Just there's a lot to talk about today, and I don't care about this author's stay with his daughter in 2016. Let's see. All right, so here we go. The last 2 years of party building and pushback belong to a multi-ethnic, multi-generational, multifaceted collection of movement activists, largely led by women in support of women, activated by a catastrophic election that uncorked a latent power that had long been dormant on the political scene. Over and over, candidates and volunteers have said that the last time they saw a mobilization that was anywhere near as passionate and expansive was on behalf of Obama's 2008 campaign. Unlike in 2008, there is no centralized leadership this year. Building an army. Okay. So basically this article is all about how people really woke up because of Trump, which is very true. And yeah, all right. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, people are awake right now. And hopefully that leads to some constructive change. Let's see what else you guys have sent in. All right, this is from Seawalk. California at center of fight for U.S. House control. As California goes, so goes the U.S. House, ? A string of contested districts across the nation's most populous state could provide a pathway Tuesday for Democrats to take control of the chamber or help Republicans hold their ground in a year defined by divisions over President Donald Trump and the Me Too movement against sexual harassment. Ohio Representative Steve Stivers, the Republican Party's campaign chief in the House, summed it up plainly. The party's majority runs through Orange County, California, where Republicans are defending 4 suburban seats, long counted as GOP turf. All right, so I guess Orange County is a big one as far as flipping the House. And they mentioned some Farm Belt districts, too. So as far as flipping the House goes, there's a lot at stake here in California, but there's also a lot at stake via the ballot measures in California, too. So, thanks for sharing. And let's see. We probably got time for 1 or 2 more before I go to the chat. This is interesting. Puppet Master shares this. So I guess they declared victory early? Alright, let's see what this is all about. MSNBC declares a Dem victory. Alright, oh wait, let me go to the article. Sorry about that. MSNBC declares Dem victory in Florida governor election day before voting begins. Okay. MSNBC can now boast of being the first news outlet to break results from Tuesday's midterm election hours before voting began. The network said it misfired. Yeah, no shit. After airing a fake vote tally from Florida's gubernatorial race. Viewers watching MSNBC's election coverage on the eve of nationwide midterms were likely puzzled to learn that Democrat Andrew Gillum had already been declared the next governor. Wow. With 99% of the votes counted, and Gillum had purportedly triumphed over his rival by 0.6 percentage points, MSNBC reported almost a full day after voting was set to begin. And then Chris Hayes said it was a misfire. And you realize that this doesn't help. If you're an Andrew Gillum person, this doesn't help you. You understand that, right? You understand that MSNBC, they're not... First of all, from a journalistic standpoint, it's an unethical thing to do. It was an unethical thing to do when they did it for Bush. It's an unethical thing to do no matter who the candidates are. It's an unethical thing to do. You don't do bullshit like that. I don't care if it's the worst 2 candidates in history going against each other. I don't care if it's a great candidate and a terrible one. You don't do that. You don't make misfires like that. But second of all, you realize this doesn't even help. Like if you're saying, oh, well, Ron DeSantis is terrible. This doesn't help Andrew Gillum. You understand that, right? This doesn't help him. Because then people are going to be like, well, I guess it's in. I was going to vote for Andrew Gillum. I'm not going to bother now. So tell me again how MSNBC is progressive at all. I mean, they are, and you saw the way they treated Christine Halquist over in Vermont. That's another person. If I could vote for Christine Halquist over in Vermont, I would. I'd be thrilled to vote for her. If I lived in Vermont, I would go vote for her. And if you do live in Vermont, I strongly encourage you to please vote for her. Consider voting for her. But like, you realize this doesn't help Andrew Gillum. Because there's going to be people like, well, Ron, Andrew Gillum, I like... It's like, yeah, but this doesn't... It's not about him. This is saying, like, this doesn't help anybody, really. This doesn't help anybody. But if it helps... Like, if you had to pick out a candidate, it helped over the other. It helps the opposition. His opposition. So, way to go, MSNBC. Way to go. Leading the Mick resistance. MSNBC. Good job, guys. Good job. All right. I'm going to go to the chat to end the show today. And we're going to chat, and then that's the end of it. Statutory grape. If Dems don't win the House and the Senate today, they'll blame socialists. They'll blame Greens, too. Frozen Wolf, MSNBC, lean forward but don't actually move. Just kind of stand there. Chris Walker also brings how this is kind of like how they called it from Bush. Renee, thank you for the love from Denmark. I hope to see you soon. Garden Gnome predicts the Democrats will get 18 to 20 seats. They won't make it to 24. OG Johnson, MSNBC sucks as much as Fox News does. I completely agree with you. I even went as far as to say that I think in many ways MSNBC is worse. Because with Fox News, you know what they are. With Fox News, you know that they're just right-wing propaganda. We're told MSNBC is more balanced and leans to the left. They don't at all. They are a very conservative network. And it's one of those things. What's worse? The person that you know is the school bully, or the person that pretends they're your friend but they stab you in the back? The person that pretends they're your friend and then they pretend to not understand what net neutrality is because Comcast pays their bills. The person that pretends to not understand climate change because oil and gas funds them. What's worse? Joseph says CNN is probably the worst of the worst. Neutrality bias and corporate bias ahoy, but they act like they are the most objective one of them all. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to pick like who's the worst out of that group, but I would say that MSNBC, you know, I mean, as far as them all being terrible, they're all terrible. But with Fox News, at least you know what you're getting. That's why I think MSNBC in many ways is even worse because, again, school bully versus friend that stabs you in the back. Friend, quote unquote, that stabs you in the back. I would say the friend that stabs you in the back is worse than the school bully. Think about your childhood. Think about your childhood if you were ever bullied. Do you remember? I mean, you know, I got picked on every now and again. Not too crazy often. But I've been picked on, and I don't even remember the details of it. I think it was just an older kid that was like, kind of like that. It didn't even faze me. It was just, an older kid's picking on a younger kid, whatever. I have red hair, I get it. But think about if a friend betrayed you. And that's happened to all of us. That has happened to every single one of us in our lifetimes, where a friend betrays us. Think of how that made you feel. It breaks your heart. So again, what's worse, the school bully or the person you think's your friend, but then they stab you in the back? I would go with the latter being worse 100% of the time. 100% of the time. Occupy New Paradigm. I watch Democracy Now! Sometimes they've backed off the Russia talk, finally. I know, yes, I'm a big Democracy Now! Fan. I was disappointed with how Russia they were getting. There were just other things they should have been talking about big time. And it seems like they're kind of getting back to what made people love them. You know, that they cover stories that are marginalized. They cover stories that are ignored by the corporate press. I feel like Democracy Now! Seems to be getting back to that, which I'm thrilled about. And I can't help thinking it's because after Noam Chomsky's last appearance, when the cameras were off, he said to Amy, what's going on as of recent? We need you and we miss you. I want to believe that happened. I don't know if it did. I have no, you know. But yeah. And Occupy New Paradigm points out North Dakota and Michigan also have pot on the ballot. And let's see. Balthazar says, Dems are the stop hitting yourself bully of the political process. I like that. And Balthazar also says, if you live in Colorado, yes on 112, no on 74. Yes on 112, no on 74. Shout out for everyone in Colorado. That's a friendly neighborhood message from Balthazar. Seth says, Comcast doesn't pay any of my friends' bills. Well, then you don't have any friends that work for Comcast or work for MSNBC. MSNBC, hey, bro, you mind if I steal your wallet and kick you? At least they asked you. That's what Tim says. I want the Dems... Get Real says, I want the Dems to lose for two reasons, Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff. Those are two terrible, terrible politicians. And those are two politicians I could never vote for in a million years. And yeah, I can see why that really just pushes you away. And I know there's a lot of people, there are some progressive STEM entering, and I get what they're trying to do, but you know me, I want to see us start a new party in this country, but it's kind of a matter of how do you get there, because the names that could make that happen have all said no. So, you know, now you're kind of stuck with what do we do next? And the way I see it is we really need labor to rise. And we really need labor to rise, similar to how it did in the 30s. And that is something that Movement for a People's Party is trying to do, and I think it's the right thing. We need a unification of the working class. We need strikes everywhere. We need massive strikes. We need labor to really get together and mold together and form their own movement. And, you know, we are totally out of time. We are completely out of time. And, oh, and you guys asked my thoughts on IWW. Well, I'm pro-union. I mean, as far as like the particulars of them in particular, I would need to do a little more legwork, anti-imperialist. But yeah, I am pro-union. However, I do recognize that you see a little bit of corruption at times within unions. As Eugene points out right beneath you, too many unions are knee-jerk Democrats and are unwilling to see how the Democrat Party has sold out unions. I do see that problem with it. Am I still pro-union? Of course. I'm very much pro-union. But I do see the need structurally for them to, kind of make some changes. In certain cases, not in every union, but yeah. Guys, we're totally out of time. I'm going to go vote. And yeah, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. And I'll just end on a message. I encourage you to vote again. Although I do certainly understand some of the frustrations and cynicisms towards it, I certainly do agree with that. I just think that our priorities are backwards. I think that voting locally and voting on initiatives and propositions, there's still a lot of value in doing that. And I will be voting today. Admittedly, there will be some things I'm going to leave blank where I can't justify voting for any of the candidates that are an option to me. I encourage you to do the same if you're not going to do it. I understand. I'm not here to shame you. Tums Lover, shout out to Detroit. You got it. Detroit, hell yeah. Michigan, get that pot and that gerrymandering and get that same-day registration. And if you're not going to vote, I encourage you to go out and do something. There's a lot of things that you can do that don't involve voting. And it's necessary. Get involved with a cause. Get involved with something in your community. Get involved, pick up litter, hell, I'll say this. I noticed a couple things in the chat today, and I'm not trying to put anyone down, but I find nothing more boring on the planet than people opining about people that opine. So I don't know what value there is in talking about content creators and just going back and forth about bickering between content creators. The fact that that's going on in my chat really makes me feel that as a content creator, I've failed you. Because I find nothing more boring. When there's real shit going on, there's real shit going on in the world. There's an election day today. There's a lot to talk about. There's issues going on. And we're going back and forth about what people on the internet have said about other people on the internet. I find nothing more boring. Nothing. Nothing less productive. There is nothing less productive than that. Literally nothing. And the fact that some of that was going on in the chat today, I have failed you. And I'm sorry. So yeah, I don't know why some of you thought that was fun to talk about. Bums me out. Bums me out. Daniel points out, Ron, you're not responsible for everyone. That's really true. I can't, I'm not able to just, Tim recommends taking in a rescue cat. That's good advice, but not for me, because Lucy would not Lucy would not like a new cat. She would not tolerate a new cat. She wouldn't be very nice. So anyway, guys, we're totally out of time, and I appreciate y'all for being here. And yeah. So Yeah. And let's see. Keep up the struggle. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a good day. I hope you do your thing.